Yeah.
So, all right, here we go. Dave picking his tiles. Let's see what he gets. And we are off in game 3 here. And it
Yeah.
looks like a lot of that. Oh, well, he got a
Oh,
few
there's that A.
consonants.
Oh, there's that A.
Yeah. um, so let's see. Budak says bingo. I'm not sure I see the bingo yet.
Budak is on a whole nother level than us, Will. What
Yeah.
are we gonna do?
The JK comes there.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see what Dave will do here. He's got a couple too many vowels, and the CP combination is not wonderful together.
Yeah,
Again,
it's a tough one.
this is tricky. I'm not 100% sure which way I would go here. Maybe a paid? Does that make sense to play? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd have to think about this one for a minute, to be totally honest.
Yeah, so what are the objectives with this opening rack? Like, right, the things you want to do to start the game are not just to try to score as many points as you can get, but also to deny your opponent easy scoring opportunities and not to unnecessarily place letters on the board that your opponent can use productively, right? So for me, I'm always trying to think of, like, if I don't have to play an E, for example, on my opening move, if I can make a play that scores decently well and leaves me my E on my rack, I really try to do that just because it feels like putting an E or an S or one of those good bingo tiles out there on your first move of the game can sometimes give your opponent a huge play that they wouldn't normally have. So there's a lot to balance.
Yeah, I don't know if we're able to like run a quick simulation in the background on this one, because the AI should be able to tell us probably what's best here. But I think, some of the pitfalls to watch out for beyond what you just said, like, these are good tiles. You can't score a ton with them. It's pretty tempting to play short to try to go for a bingo next turn. So I think it's really just all about, like, what's the best balance you could find here.
So copy is the play for Dave. That's interesting because the simulation wanted him to play pica instead. And I'm wondering if that's simply, maybe, Conrad, maybe you really are rubbing off on Dave quite a bit, because copy looks like it's significantly more defensive. There's no great obvious place. Instead, after pica, if you were to switch those letters around and play pica, it would have left AED, and there would be a really easy place to fit a bingo ending in ED if you drew it under the P and I of pica had he played that. Instead, this is way more defensive, placing a C out in open space. And as we know, the C really, really difficult to parallel. Only CH is playable as a 2-letter word. So yeah, I wonder if this is the Conrad in Dave coming out at all. What do you think?
It's entirely possible. I mean, I don't know. There could be a bit of gamesmanship going on. Maybe Dave doesn't know that Terry knows that copy is the plural of, or KP, copy, capo, whatever. I can speak words. Obviously, yeah, you and I both have the typography connection to the word PICA, relevant to
that's right
your former career, certainly, and my current career. It's always fun. I think Dave has definitely become defense curious, and I honestly, he's getting pretty good at it. But yeah, I think in general, there's something to be said for it limits so many plays for your opponent next turn by throwing that C right there short term.
Yeah, it could be, maybe, as you said, maybe he feels like he knows that S hook and Terry may not. That could be a big factor there, which, when you're playing a computer algorithm, or when you're playing somebody that is known to be absolutely infallible with their word knowledge, maybe that's not as relevant. But it looks like Terry is going to challenge this word. So right away you can see Dave's choice to play this word may be, this gamesmanship that you alluded to is going to help him get 5 extra points. And that's going to make, and any of those opening plays, if you're going to tell me that you're going to, if or suspect that you're going to get 5 extra points, that play is going to turn out better. So maybe Dave has made the Galaxy Brain play here.
Yeah. I mean, it probably would have worked against me because, like, I mean, anyone who's paying close attention will note that I missed Scott B too. So,
yeah. I mean, it crossed my mind.
I could eat my words for I'll happily do it.
Yeah, it crossed my mind, but I wasn't thinking about it just because Pika takes the S hook both in front and in back. So, like, I was just thinking, like, well, you know, it's not that they're both kind of similar against an S. But it turns out that this is, you know, a pretty big difference as Dave is now going to go up 88 after Terry's opening exchange. It's worth noting Terry had ATES, but then a bunch of extra vowels. She opted to exchange, but then drew some duplicates after her exchange, including an unduplicated, but not that good of a bingo tile, the Y. So this is going to be, that's not what Terry wanted. She was very close to having a bingo with that nice 4-tile leave. Here, she's going to have to dump her Y and try her best to score as well as she can. Meanwhile, Dave is sitting on another set of very good tiles here. Okay, Terry plays Testy. That's a pretty good choice for 37. She's not so worried about bingoing. Instead, she takes a bunch of points and runs. What do you think of that choice, Conrad?
I mean, I think it makes enough sense wanting to get points. You could probably make the argument for something a bit shorter because AEST is such a good leave. Shout out to El Jefe Ray in the chat. But probably, yeah, I don't know. I see where she's coming from with the play. I think it's perfectly defensible.
Yeah, it's close, right? Like, I feel like you're just getting enough points with Testy to break up that nice bingo leave. But of course, Dave is for sure going to bingo here through the eye of Scappy. He's got 2 bingos. Jello Mochas has pointed them both out. So basically, the choice for Dave, and it's so interesting, right? Like, you know, he's going to see these. Again, I hesitate to say that we know anything after the games we've seen so far, but if you know anything, you know Dave Wiegand is going to find Looniest or Oilstone here, right? Yeah. If we don't see that, I don't even know what we're doing here. So sure enough, he chooses Oilstone. The question was, should he have played Looniest instead? So Oilstone, the issue with that, not that there is a real issue, is that it creates a nice place to play 7s, ending parallel to that O. The thing I love about it is that it really fouls up all of the through tiles of Sondage, right? Like, there is now very, very little real estate on the board to comfortably play an 8-letter word. So I think I prefer this to minimize the total number of threats to his lead, which now, let me just make sure that we indicate he has a very nice over 100-point lead in this game. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, I'm pretty much Oilstone is the play, unless he's really trying to keep the board as open as humanly possible to try to get some point spread or something for the future. But no,
good point. We should talk about that idea for those that may be coming from chess or other word games. This idea of it matters how much you beat your opponents by in these tournaments, right?
Yeah. So, I wish it didn't. I am, the first to say that I wish that we could change it so that point spread did not matter. I think it's kind of a pox on our game, but given that it's still a thing, point spread just being how much you beat your opponent by is a part of the metagame. That's how it is.
Yeah, and that's not the case in events that feature match play and stuff like that. There are tournaments where they eventually culminate in one player playing another player in a series of games, and in those situations, the point spread matters much less, right? Because you're playing one-on-one against another person. Let's just win as many games as I can in this match. Really, in Scrabble tournaments function a little bit more like a golf tournament, right? Like, everybody in this tournament is going to play 20 rounds, and the players that win the most out of those 20 games will be the winners in their divisions. And The issue is that we need some way to tiebreak a similar number of wins, and I think there are other ways to do it. John Domino says discuss alternatives. One way to do it would simply to have more tournaments use a match play format at the very end and let the tiebreakers be decided that way. You could also use strength of schedule against as a way to determine it. Credit system from the 70s.
Oh, I'm kidding. Don't do that. I'm saying that like we didn't always use wins.
Yes, that was a crazy system. So
cost someone a nationals victory, in fact.
But I think that's part of
head-to-head, right? Just your head-to-head. Like look at all the head-to-heads. That's your first tiebreaker. Sure. That'll take care of a lot of the time. And like, okay, fine. If you and someone were like both 1-1, I mean, it's you just kind of come up with just like in most other sports, just come up with an additional tiebreaker. And then there's always a point where if it's two people, just play one more game.
Yeah, and I think the idea is just that this system incentivizes you at times to literally not go for the win, right? Yeah. Like there are situations where if you have a 1% chance to win a game, but going for that 1% is going to cost you 50, 70, 100 points on the scoreboard of that game, you have tremendous incentive not to actually do your best to win the game because you're trying to protect your point spread as a tiebreaker. So I think that definitely sticks in some people's mind as like, this isn't what I want. Okay, so Cade is the play here for Dave, leaving IUU, which I mean, it doesn't seem like there are any plays that are that much better than that. Certainly no plays that don't really open some nice thing for the opponent. And it scores 35 points. But that is a really ugly leave for Dave. So let's just see if he can navigate that successfully. I don't know what I would have liked that much better. I guess you could play something like Undo through the end of Oilstone and keep AIC. The problem is that scores 19 or 21 fewer points, I should say. So tough one.
I mean, I think part of it, what's going through Dave's mind is like, regardless, he's probably not going to bingo for the next couple turns. He has enough good plays so that you cannot exchange here. So pick your moment, and right there, that's a good way to play some solid defense on the future of that top right part of the board, forcing Terry to open, with Cadet later on or something, and then he can hang around with those U's and whatever else he draws to kind of muck up somewhere on the bottom of the board in the future. I think that's kind of probably what's going through Dave's head. That's why he's willing to take such a cruddy leave for a turn here. Now, beyond that,
the score is
better than Druid.
Yeah, Druid. With those letters, you're going to be hard pressed to do very much. I mean, I guess you could consider playing something like Ungird right through the end. I don't know. I mean, these are not great options for sure.
You really want to open that. You want to open that triple lane.
I don't want to. That's why I'm saying that with such. Oh no, Undug in that spot. Undug. As Rajveer suggests, nice. Undug. That's definitely. Oh wait, well, it's not Terry's turn yet. But what about? It's not Dave's turn yet. But what about GUID Gid alongside Sondage? That looks pretty good too.
Yeah, also solid.
So a couple decent plays for Dave that will get him out of this mess. And the play being suggested for Terry of Tuna, that does look like a pretty good choice. It is worth noting there was a pretty cool option parallel to Oilstone, Tamanu, with 5 2-tile overlaps. Nice. STTAOMNAEN. All of that. So that would have been the, super brain play. But actually, for Terry's game situation, Tuna maybe makes more sense than that because she now opens herself some threats to bingo on the board. Jesse Matthews in the chat, he says, William.
Did
I do it?
I think
thank you, Jesse.
that was a good effort. Jesse, another one of the core team of Scrabble commentators, if you will.
Yeah.
I really hope we'll get him on one of these again pretty soon. Really kind of our biggest social media whiz throughout the community.
Yeah,
also happens to be my best friend, but
I have
biased,
no doubt.
Still.
Yeah, I have no doubt that we'll get Jesse on one of these at some point. So thank you, Jesse, for stopping by.
Yeah. Jesse, where are you flying today? Tell us about your flying schedule as a flight attendant.
Nice. Yeah, I'm sure he's off somewhere interesting and new. But yeah, so Dave is sitting with a nice lead, and this is going to be a good test to see how Conradly is he, right? Like, is he going to play Gid for 26, leaving URD, or is he going to play Undug, which opens literally nothing back, really, except I guess, no, it really opens almost nothing that I can imagine. Okay, so he does go for the slightly higher scoring, slightly better points and leave combination. I don't have a problem with this play, Conrad.
Yeah, I mean, it makes plenty of sense to me. It's honestly, it scores. And
it scores a lot more, 10 more, which is that's just not, in the event that your opponent, if you're choosing between the play, and Terry immediately plays locks in response down, and that is a play that is by far the best option for scoring and leave value. We call that, the term for anybody curious, we call that equity. Every Scrabble play has a measure that we call equity. That is the value of the play in score and the value of the play's letters left over. So that completely ignores any consideration for the shape of the board, the strategic motivation behind your play. A play's equity is a really good starting point to evaluating that play, but it's far from the full picture. But in that situation, locks, not only the best equity play for Terry, but also a play that makes every bit of sense in that it opens another lane with slid. Maybe she can draw other hooks to lid like glid or o-lid. So it has some positional benefits for her, in addition to being the best equity play. Jesse says LAX was where he. Oh wow! Oh man, he told us much more than that. Look at that. Look at that itinerary. Holy crap!
He's in the middle of a, I think, 7-day shift. Or not. I mean, he hasn't been on the whole time, but all 7 days.
Do you think Dave is going to play under row here? He had that. Oh, okay. He arranged that.
I don't know if Terry sees Amarel yet, but she'd have to challenge under row if not.
Great point. Okay, so Dave, for a fleeting moment there, he arranged the word under row on his rack, which would play through the end of Tuna. He's not gonna play that, which makes sense. He's playing Daup instead. This looks like a much more careful play than a lot of his other choices that he had available. Like just Ow alongside the X of Ox is completely insane. It makes far too good of a scoring spot in response. Daup does open a triple, but it's not I don't know. I think that among the scary things that can happen after Daup, like the Z is already gone. It's hard to hit the Q in that special spot on the double letter score. I think it's reasonable to play Daup here.
Yeah, it's pretty reasonable. I mean, Dave's trying to make some scoring spots for himself. It also helps, he's more likely to perhaps get that in the future. It's a little bit offensive of a play, not offensive, just offensive.
Yes. Good distinction.
Amarel. Unworded feels.
Well, Dave had two. Yeah, Dave had
he didn't quite have the right rack, but.
Yeah, but Terry, as you alluded to, Conrad, Terry really, it doesn't. I think this would be a great find for any player, but I think Terry finding the difference between her finding Amarel from the A of Tuna and not is enormous here, and I'm pretty sure she's gonna just play off her A and her L, or maybe her E and her L alongside the X in an effort to open more space. That actually is kind of a good play for her here, simply because Dave's rack is so poor that he's not going to be able to do a ton in response to that play.
Yeah.
But either way, Amarel for 83 points off of the A of Tuna is definitely the play in this situation. That's not an easy play. So we'll see.
Give you a chance to show off, probably. What is the only other 8-letter word? I had to
with an F, right? An F.
An F. I wouldn't have known that. So that's pretty. You can see how Will is on a different level than all of us.
Well,
Dave would find it.
Dave would find that. Yeah, I think Dave would find anything I would find. So, okay, so Amarel is going to get past Terry. She's going to play EL. If you do not spot the bingo here, this play makes a ton of sense given Terry's game situation. She needs to create threats that she can eventually bingo with her good bingo tiles here, and she does have very good bingo tiles.
Yeah, now from Dave's perspective, it's so tempting to just play Uri and Ed or something. And now all of a sudden the board's nice and wide open for Terry,
I'll come back.
Which, could help. We'll see if she drew on here.
So Conrad is alluding to the idea of this is a word you will see a lot in Scrabble. Ourie. So this word is a great way to dump a lot of vowels at once. That's going to play to the triple off of Daup in a pretty nice way, leaving ER, which is one of the best 2-tile leaves. It gets even better because of the Rex spot that just opened up. Any bingo ending in ER will play pretty effectively in that spot. And if you're able to play something with DR that goes even further down, it's going to score a ton of points, hitting the double word score. So we'll see. A suggestion of Ur and Rex, that could be the option too. Oh, man. Okay.
Still would open a big spot. Oh, hey, look, it's AI Brady.
AI Brady is here. Thank you very much. Also, shout out to Fern Plant above. Thank you guys for coming aboard. Hope you enjoyed the coverage here today. So Terry has, she's
got one.
She had one bingo through the S of Oilstone, which is very much off the beaten path on this board. She could have played Miss Layer there, but Yam for 33 is still pretty good. Again, if you're not going to see that bingo, you're scoring 33, leaving a nice set of letters left over.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would even say, given that, after a 5-tile draw, Dave is likely to score a bunch of points there. If you simmed this play and gave any sort of decent inference to Dave, I bet Yam is, not far off.
Yeah, I agree. And look at you, clever folks in the chat. And you can see Dave has lined this up on his rack without question. So now Dave sees this word, Vivera. We know that's going to be able to play here with the Ago hook off of Gid and Sondages, where you see GO on that left side of the board. Dave is probably just looking the board over and seeing if he's missing anything better. And this beautiful bingo is about to come down for Dave. That's going to be a big swing here in this game, which, again, I have to make sure the scores are right for you guys.
And now look at how much that would have scored if Terry had played Miss Lair.
Oh, my God. Yeah. So this play would have been an absolute hammer had Terry played her bingo and not Yam. So there is some positional benefit for Terry to covering up that scary spot. But now, they're getting up to go take a look at the challenge here. For Terry, it makes every bit of sense to give this a 5-point challenge. Again, that's the rule we're playing here. Not the challenge you may have heard, double challenge, sometimes used where the loser of a challenge loses their turn. In this case, Terry will not lose her turn for challenging the valid word. Dave will simply get 5 extra points. So she has every incentive to challenge any word she's not familiar with. She does challenge. Dave gets an extra 5 points as the word is valid.
Shout out to my dad, who now officially has a Twitch account as well.
Oh my God. I mean, this is like my mom's got to come immediately now because I'm outnumbered badly here. So, yeah. And to add insult to injury, Terry draws the Q and Dave is going to play the star. He could play the star of The Simpsons, also known as Fat Homer. Just kidding. Fathomer is the word that I'm referring to. Yeah, so Dave's going to bingo again, and this game is really going to be out of reach in a hurry here. Let me get Terry's points.
So a lot of people, by the way, have commented. Just in passing, Dave seems to be 20 kilograms lighter. Dave started running during COVID. I've seen him running, nearby me all the time. So he discovered running, and he's doing excellently. So it's been really cool to see.
Yeah,
do you want to acknowledge that?
Dave looks awesome. Yeah, like totally different from what I remember. Yeah. So I'm really happy to see that. And I also have to say, Dave is like, so when I'm practicing my words on a wonderful website called aerolith.org, Dave has become increasingly difficult for me to beat in those challenges on there. In fact, I regularly expect to lose to him every day on some of those anagramming challenges. So I feel like Dave is living his best life in a number of ways here. He looks great. He's probably studied up, ready to dominate. And so good for him. Yeah. Also, if he plays his bingo here through that, it's going to block Terry's bingo of Ritornell. So not Terry's game.
Yeah. And I will say with Dave, we're still, as I mentioned before, he and I live about 6 blocks from each other in Portland, Oregon. We have another former national champ, Pete Armstrong, who also lives a whole 12 blocks. So we still get to do all of our beer drinking, and it's more about just making sure we're getting the exercise in, right? Something I could learn from either you or Dave.
Yeah, if you're enjoying your beers and having your Scrabble club with a few brews, then gotta do your best to run those off afterwards. But yeah, Dave is clearly doing that, so kudos to him. So he is a lock, I think. Now he has
I couldn't fathom him missing it.
Yeah, so the only question for us is what letter is he going to make that? I think he's going to make that an R, because the R is much more difficult to underlap than the D, right? So if you're thinking about Dave, as we said before, you have to think about when you get a game like this where you draw well, you want to do your best to win by as much as possible. And one thing that can happen after Fathomer is your opponent can play a really strong scoring play under that E, right? So let me get the tracking up here so I can show you guys what tiles are available. Hold on.
Dave just keeps drawing. This is amazing. I'm not immediately sure if somebody's gonna fit, but still.
That's amazing. So hold on a sec. So we'll just see. So the tracking from Terry's perspective is this, but okay. So I have the tracking up now. Let me get Dave's extra points for Fathomer. All right, we're up to date. So it looks like Unseen was an F, a W, an H, a couple other tiles that fit under that E of Fathomer. And if you're Dave, you just want to limit how much damage Terry can do in that spot. And I think Fathomer does a much better job than Fathomed of doing that. So just one of these tiny little nuances. You might not think it matters at all in a game where Dave is up by literally 200 points, right? Like 201 points after Terry's play. But these things do end up mattering in the long term. And there's a reason that I know we were kind of talking smack on the use of spread as a tiebreaker, but there is a reason that Dave Wiegand reliably has some of the best spreads in the tournament in which he competes, and it's because he's really attuned to those nuances between plays.
Yeah. Noting that Terry played Neural, making Woken, keeping another good lead, even when you're losing, again, coming back to spread one more time, even if you're down 200 points, because spread matters, you can't just give up and lose by 500. You have to keep playing, and so in this case, Terry makes a good play, keeping a good lead, and she will be rewarded, finally with a playable bingo.
Yeah, we'll see her bingo here through the A of tuna. She has a couple different ones that are, I would not say if you're following along, and these are not going to be words that you should necessarily be able to pull out from your everyday vocabulary, but she does have some 8-letter words that play through that A that she's going to see because Terry is a very solid player. She'll know words like gratinate. That's kind of that's a normal-ish word, but hard to anagram.
If you're a food person,
a foodie for sure,
would know gratinate.
Yep. And then perhaps the weirdest of all, Anargite, which that one is
the shortest steal for.
Oh my God, I'm terrible at these types of.
Dave might know.
Oh, Dave would probably.
Oh, that's pretty hard. Yeah, hard with the blank.
How about bathrobal, pertaining to a bathrobe? Is that the answer?
How about abhorrible? I don't know.
Oh,
I swear I'm not cheating.
That's nice. Yeah. So yeah, Terry's probably thinking, what can I do here that's any better than a 60-point bingo through the A? The answer is nothing. So yeah, we'll have to see. Is that the answer, Jesse? Abhorrible? We'll have to find out. So yeah, Dave's sitting on a nice set of letters here, and there are not that many letters left in the game.
Oh, it's sick. It's so not only is abhorrible not a word, it is a 3-tile steal, and it's a word. It is okay. It is a word that you know, but like you know the singular.
Huh. Okay.
I would have not. I think it's a, or sorry, I don't know. I think it's a.
Well, we're gonna.
I don't even know. Maybe
we'll have to reveal the answer. Yeah. So if anyone is confused, what we're trying to do is figure out what is what is a word that contains all of the letters that are on Dave's rack right now, and then a few more. Right. This is a very common sort of brain training tool that we use to try to come up with. Longer words I think there is a certain sense where if you can train your brain to be really flexible with like 9 and 10 and 11 letter words, going back down to 7 and 8, which is really where that's mostly the longest that you would be expected to be good with in a Scrabble game. If you can go up much higher than that, going back down starts to become a little more accessible and a little easier. So for me, though, I have never been so good with coming up with those super long words like 9s and 10s, like Dave Wiegand can do, Joel Sherman, a few of other, top expert players are amazing at it. Oh, wow. Okay. A nice word there from Jello Mocha's irregular Turkish soldiers. That's kind of funny. What makes them irregular, I guess? It's kind of a fun word. So anyway, Terry's taking her sweet time to make this play here. It worries me again. We're seeing this a bunch of times. It feels like as the time wears on, the odds of actually missing the word seem to go up. But I would be really surprised if she missed these through the A. So
yeah, she might just be looking through the O, through the N,
true,
etc.
NASA1 says, hi, Wills. Hi. Hello to you as well. Thank you for stopping by.
Am I the other Will in the plural? Because my middle name is in fact William.
There's lots of people that call me Wills, and I don't mind that at all. I like, it's like Wills Anderson, Evans Clinchy, and all the other top players like that. Yeah. So yeah. Oh wow, is that the answer? Thingamabob.
No, it's Shabbatot.
Oh, that's so interesting. But it's like an interesting plural of Shabbat. Shabbatot.
Except Shabbat is not a word.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah,
I'm very confused.
Sabbath is, but Shabbat not.
Yeah.
So, all right. So Terry appears to have missed her bingo there.
Oops.
That's obviously, this game is already Dave's. It's not going to cost her the game, but it will cost her some points on the scoreboard, which, as we've been saying, that does matter a little bit, the way we play. So that is that's going to give Dave a chance to play a nice, wow. he plays just down in the corner. So that's a play that I feel like most of even casual players can spot. If you know AAL is a word, you can play down there in the corner. We know our 2-letter words, hopefully, most of us. It doesn't take that much time to learn those twos. If you're just starting out, that's the best way to punch up your scoring potential in a hurry. So Dave is up to 495 and Terry 222. And we'll just see what Dave, I'm betting Dave gets some crazy thing down at some
Baba
point.
Ganoush.
Yeah, right. The question is, I mean, even if there is a crazy play available, and I guess Terry just played Orient. She just played an R. So did she miss anterior? Yeah, she appears to have missed anterior as well. So Terry letting some scoring opportunities slip away from her here. Again, the score of the game is irrelevant to the outcome here, but Dave is going to take as many points as he can get here. So we're down the stretch of this game. There's only a few tiles left. From Dave's perspective, if we want to cut to the tracking still just so people can see it, we can. I have that up there. From Dave's perspective, there is a scary amount of eyes left to come. So that's the thing about that also is Terry only has one I. So that means a lot of those letters, the letter I left, are lurking in the bag still. So if Dave uses up too many tiles, we could easily see him draw I, or 2 I's, and his chances of bingoing would hurt. So would be hurt, I should say. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, Dave certainly rebounding from that round 1 loss that we saw. So if you're just hopping aboard, this is round 3. We saw a matchup between Dave Wiegand and Walker Willingham in game 1, where Dave had a surprising miss of a bingo. But then game 2 between Austin Shin and Chris Lipe had even more fireworks in that regard. Both players missing bingos that probably would have locked up the game pretty effectively. And it ended up being Chris's game by a narrow margin. But I fully expect all of those players to be right among the top when all is said and done.
Yeah. So want to call out a couple of comments,
sure.
On the production value being A+ by Budak's own words. But Brett, I will say that this tends to be the actual physical setup, I think, is fairly similar to past years, that we have, Christian, who's running the scenes behind us, has used in the past, but I don't really know that we've had something quite this good or elaborate really anywhere else. Is that fair to say, Will?
Yeah, it is fair to say.
Whisper in my ear.
It is fair to say. I would also add that a large portion of the sponsorship that was provided by Scrabble Go and PlayScrabble.com went into improving the live streaming equipment that you're seeing here. We have a nice spiffy new overhead camera, a new board setup that was provided with that sponsorship. So just want to, I'm not sure whether I should thank myself for that or
it's weird when we've been doing a lot of things behind the scenes, both for your day job and stuff, and it's cool to see it paying off though, right? You've done a lot of work, and now we get to see the first moment of some really cool things starting to happen. So
yeah, I'm definitely hopeful that this can be just a first step in a much larger strategy here of having our wonderful over-the-board Scrabble community start to be a really reliable source of great content for this Twitch channel. So that's definitely my hope, is that these broadcasts are really fun and accessible, not just for players that are really familiar already with our community, but for people that stumble across us who are more casual Scrabble players or from other gaming communities. So definitely have a lot of big plans for this channel. So if you're watching along on Twitch, definitely encourage you to toss the channel a follow, because there's going to be way more content like this in the future coming your way, and hopefully following the channel will be rewarding for you, so you don't miss any of that great content.
Yeah.
So, all right, Terry now definitely has Atropine lined up on her rack. I feel sure now with that lined up that she is going to bingo here from that A of tuna and cut the gap a little bit. As you can see, Dave, cognizant of those eyes in the pool, I'm pretty sure he realizes he needs to play one here. He plays Vig through the V of Vivera and the G of Teg, just one eye by itself. He's trying not to empty the bag there. So the idea of Dave playing only one tile is to make sure that he gave himself at least a chance of hitting a bingo to finish this game off. But Terry is going to get there first with Atropine at long last. So, all right, Dave's got this, and we are down to the tracking is depleted. Terry just has an eye on her rack here now.
Sometimes all you have is an eye.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, AI Brady says home with COVID. Really sorry to hear that. Hope that you get better soon and that your symptoms are not too bad.
Definitely.
So yeah, sorry to hear that. Okay, nice play of Phones making the chin hook for Dave. I think Conrad of Dave as being a tremendously precise endgame player. Would you agree with that? It's like amazing how good he is at that part of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume he is. After Nigel and maybe Adam, I would say he's probably the. I mean, unless you want to nominate yourself, he's probably the next best endgame player.
Absolutely
like in the world.
Not going to nominate myself. In no world would I put myself in that class of endgame. That's definitely beyond me to be that precise. Like if I have like 15 minutes left on my clock, maybe, but never happens.
Yeah. So I would say Dave is probably the third best endgame solver in the world. I'm willing to put my money on that.
All right, so Terry plays off her final tile, and it looks like Dave is going to get a nice big win here. And that's even after Terry's play of Atropine, where she got her bingo down, her final bingo, before Dave was able to play his second blank. Dave actually was not even able to play that second blank, but that's all water under the bridge as he wins by 204 points in this game.